I was never kinder to the old man than in the whole week before I killed him. And every night about midnight still. But the beating grew louder. Louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor.
Welcome to the world of Edgar Allan Poe. His words have come back to haunt you in a new adaptation of The Telltale Heart and The Fall of the House of Usher. Join us as we see how the play Hidden Terrors was created by taking Poe's stories from page to stage.
The challenge in adapting Poe's work for the stage is that Poe wrote a short story. It is very theatrical with spooky houses and dead people coming back and blood and all kinds of neat things. But it's not dramatic. It all takes place in someone's mind in a book. And the reader of the story, it's left to his imagination what is actually going on. On stage, it's very different. The director and the cast and the designers have to lead the audience to their images of what Poe is talking about.
First, a new story is written in the form of a script. Hidden Terrors is the playwright's interpretation of Poe's Gothic fiction.
When adapting something, I may or may not choose to express what the original author chose to express. And that's kind of breaking a rule. But to do that, I must know what the original author meant. The piece is in two parts. In The Telltale Heart, that's pretty much straightforward Telltale Heart. In the Fall of the House of Usher segment, there are actually elements of other stories that are suggested in that because so many of his stories kind of overlap.
In The Fall of the House of Usher, Ed replaced the narrator with a new character named Elaine. And he developed the house into a character to adapt the story for the stage.
The script is a blueprint, and that's the difference between it and a novel. If you write a novel or a poem or a story, that's the product, that's the final product, that thing on the page. I put the same amount of energy into a script, but that's not the finished product. The finished product is the thing that happens on stage, and that's a collaboration. So I have to, in advance, be willing to write it all out and then kind of let go of it and say a lot of other things are going to happen here.
Take a seat at the first design meeting where the team discusses ways to express the ideas in Ed's script. That's Jim, the set designer, Greg, the technical director, and over there, Helen, the costume designer, and co-director Kim Peter Kovac.
The whole sense of the house as a living being that does, it's an additional character, and it could be a sound character.
The script right now just kind of says rumble. That was to sort of signal where those narrative points were in this draft of the script, but we'd like the house to have a larger vocabulary than just, but we talked a lot yesterday about new ideas about the house closing in around scenes and being an organic creature.
And my sense is that this space is evoked through fabric and material, and I think that will get us our layers.
You could also have, little lights interspersed in the set that should then come on and off, that Greg can make safe for us.
If we only imagine walls the whole way through, then we can imagine the house falling. If we see a wall, then we must see something fall.
The team agrees on a list of objectives, but the directors are responsible for blending all of the theatrical elements into one cohesive vision.
You have hundreds of people sometimes working in a really, really big show, certainly dozens on a show like this. Very bright, very talented people who sometimes will sit around and argue about how a bow tie should be tied, or whether this chair should be put this way or that way, or whether, the rhythm of this scene should be this or that. And it's fascinating to talk about all of those details because they're very tangible, they're very real. The architect Mies van der Rohe said God is in the details. And so you work on these details and you try to make them into a story.
Auditions are held, and the directors choose 4 cast members to play roles in both stories. 3 of the characters will wear masks in The Telltale Heart. Daniel will play the teller, as well as the voice of the House of Usher.
My family is buried here. All the line of Usher. back to the very first, dimmest, unremembered ancestor. Usher is the name of this house. My ancestors are the bones of this house. There are only two of us left. Madeline and I, of the House of Usher.
It's not just physical rightness, but it's more emotional rightness. Who has the chops to get to a certain emotional place that you need? And especially with a new script, you need somebody who's flexible enough to make changes as necessary and who can help fill in pieces that may not be there.
I think we're playing with him a lot.
How manipulative I am with him?
Yeah, and it's showing the audience. Look at this mouse.
The actors rehearse, study background material, and discuss ideas so they can understand and express the overall concept of the play.
Look what I can do. That's what the whole thing is about. It's a show.
And the next night, I took a full step into his room. And the next night, several steps. And after some nights, I was able to enter his room and stand right up next to his bed, inches from him.
The play begins, some people say I'm mad. Well, we could go out there and do, I'm mad, mad, I tell you kind of thing, but that's not very interesting. And then we tell everybody he's mad to begin with. Where do we go from there? If we underplay it, if we make light of it, if the teller thinks that it's a joke that everyone thinks he's mad, then it's a lot richer.
I'll just be on my way.
When can you start?
What?
The house. It shakes a little.
We're trying very hard with this production to be light, to be humorous, to draw people into the world of Mr. Poe, who is thought of in a particular way, so we're not necessarily giving them that at the beginning. You know, Ed has created this wonderful character of Elaine, who's humorous. It's more interesting, you know, because it's by contrast, that the light moments will make the dark moments more dark, and the dark moments will make the light moments more light.
She's not a Poe character. She's created by the playwright. And I was afraid that that would not come off well, where all this kind of rhythm is created over here with these Poe characters, and then Elaine, you know. What I love about her is that she's like the comic relief. She comes in and she's the audience's eyes, and she is there to sort of be this innocent bystander in this mayhem going on.
You are a traitor.
No, I'm not.
You bring germs in.
I do not. Why are you saying
You brought
that?
her in, that woman.
I don't know. I think what we could do is continue to play with this, but you seem to go at the right
The way I work is to try and help the actor on his journey, the journey being the creation of this character. So very early in rehearsal, we talk about, is this an approach that you can work with? And when we agree on that path, then I can be very specific with him. In the fall of the House of Usher, Roderick makes the decision to hire Elaine. Why does he do that? He has to know what's going on inside of Roderick's head.
Kim and Charlotte and I always felt that there's something missing at this particular moment that I think you're going to have to invent.
Yeah. Can you help me find out what it is, though?
Sure.
What it is?
I know what it is.
Say.
It's morning.
I was reading the sheet that you handed out about morning observations and morning rituals.
Research materials gathered by the dramaturg help the actors find motivation for their characters and help directors define a vision for the play.
You kind of have to watch people and say, okay, now this person's starting to talk about grief a lot, so maybe I should run to the Library of Congress and get a lot of stuff on grief. Death and twins were sort of the biggies that came up. So I did a lot of medical research, actually, on the behavior of twins. The actors playing Madeline and Roderick have picked that up now, and they're working out gestures and patterns of walking and patterns of speech which are going to be identical to get across they are twins and they do have this kind of strange relationship. Jerry and Kim had very specific things that they wanted the actors and the scene and costume design people to see. Edward Munch is sort of becoming the patron artist of this production.
In these Munch paintings, they're ambiguous and clearly ambiguous. In Poe, every time you read The House of Usher, you see something different. The first time you read it, you say, Madeline is dead and This dead body came back. You might read it a week later and say, oh, I get it. Madeline never really died. It's all in Roderick's head. You look at a Munch painting and it's a vampire. Oh no, they're lovers. Oh, maybe something else is going on here.
We have separate bodies, like them, like everybody else. But you and I share one soul. Bodies can split apart, decay, and die. But our soul will never be separate from itself.
Research materials also help the actors develop authentic physical movements and gestures.
Go away now! Don't want to see this. It's so ugly. Stop it.
The symptoms of tuberculosis apparently are very similar to an asthmatic attack. It was also really valuable to have the materials that Charlotte gave us about the particular symptoms and the particular drugs that were used, opium-like things, laudanum things, to treat it. It just sort of deepens the whole texture of what you're doing.
The sound of the house is being created using Daniel's voice and sound effects by Robin Heath.
The main thing that I'm kind of going from is the idea of the house being a character. I've been using the sound effects library as my raw material from which to build other sound cues and to make elaborate things out of things that are very simple. Creaking and slamming of windows and ripping of fabric. You start out with a pre-recorded sound effect of a heartbeat. You can make it unrecognizable. I mean, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the heartbeat going through a very, very deep, abstracted echo. I'm still having ideas, putting ideas down on tape, playing them for the directors and for the actors, putting tapes into rehearsal.
Why? Does she like to tell me why to hear sound and tell me silence? What does she want?
The mysterious mood of this image was a source of inspiration for Helen's costume design.
I've been studying that picture for several days. And slowly those kind of light wing by the pool or by the door slowly transformed into my mind into a soft flowing fabric. So the whole thing is a dream, a young, graceful, but sort of sick. They are young, but sort of their soul is like, oh, they are alive, yet maybe they are dead.
Helen also designed masks for the policeman and the old man in Telltale Heart.
It's a mouse crossing the floor. It's a cricket. Trying to comfort himself and failing.
The actors use furniture to approximate set pieces, while the directors and designers imagine how it will look on stage. Let's check in with Jim and see how the real set is coming.
I started with a very symmetrical idea. In other words, split down the center line, equal use of space either side. And then actually it was Martha Mountain, the lighting designer, who said, well, what about skewing that? What about adding an asymmetrical quality to it, which will then help us throw the set off and consequently throw the psychology off, because the psychology of the character and this space should really be not balanced. I want the whole thing to recede back and to be very, very dark. You're not aware of where it ends. So not only will we have these drapes be on the purple burgundy side, but once they're up, we will then spray into them to give them some age, some deterioration, the fact that they've been up there a long time, musty, smoky, and probably much darker at the top. I talked about the idea of having these drapes on arms that could then move. The house would allow that bed to come through, and all this would be unseen. Or if the bed goes upstage, the house will then swallow it up. And then, of course, at the end of the play, we have all the drapes falling down to the floor. And we're left with this skeleton of a place left upstage.
So can I have actors and places, please?
It's really important for a stage manager to move rehearsal along and to make sure that everyone's time is used well. But you're dealing with a situation that's very artistic, so you want to be able to give them enough to work with that. Everything's got to be there. All the elements have to be there. So when these people come in, they can do their job. So my job is to prepare for them to do their job.
You ought to eat.
If they're moving on stage for the first time, which is called blocking, and we have to decide where they're going to go, I write all that down. I have little diagrams in my book that I fill in. One actor's here, one actor's there. Anything technical. Is there a light cue here? Is there a sound cue?
Just a minute, please. I have no reason to dismiss you. That's
When I'm watching rehearsal, I'm looking for movement patterns. The light on Roderick when he's talking alone to us is one arrangement of things. The brightness will be just on him, and the rest of it will be dimmer and dappled and bluer. When Elaine and Roderick are talking in that other place on the stage, it's a different cue. It's a very different look. The transition is getting from that first look to the second one in a way that leads us into another emotional place with Elaine. What I'm doing is supporting the action, but a lot of it comes from my emotional response to the script and what the world of the play feels like to me.
All that remains now is a valley, a gorge with steep walls, filled with dark trees, violet flowers, blood-colored blooms.
Meanwhile, Helen's designs are being transformed by a seamstress. But the final test comes when they are fitted on the actors.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
Oh, that'll look great. Blood splattered all over.
You know what? Maybe the underneath the thing is too heavy. No, I think I learned from this fitting the supporting fabric. Doesn't do what I want because I want this whole thing flowing, but didn't do that. So I decided I got to change.
During the production of a new play, the script may also go through changes. Playwrights attend the final rehearsals to see if they can improve upon their work.
I'm looking to see how well the play works. What parts seem to come naturally to the performers, what parts they have difficulty with. So what I listen to when I hear it read is when those characters are doing what they want to do and when they're doing what I want them to do. And those are the ones that I cut out and find and let them have their own life as much as possible, because that's when they're alive and that's when we relate to them and they have an impact on us.
10 days till opening night, and the set, which was built off-site, is loaded into the theater.
Start unlimbering all this nicely stored steel and laying it out here.
The blocking and timing of movement is now worked out on the nearly completed set.
Real far down here, so you can come all the way down. It's fun.
If he's sitting, do we have room for that cross?
Hello. Supper's ready?
So we can do that, perhaps with a knife behind.
It might be good behind there.
I think the first time
Discussions and meetings continue as the team collaborates and the directors make one decision after the other.
You just continually talk to hope that you're on the same track and to continue to share ideas and to see, do the ideas make sense?
Do we still want candles for there, or do we know yet?
I think I agree with you. I hate fake candles on stage.
Okay. Okay. Tech Week is one of my favorite weeks, but not usually one of anybody else's favorite weeks.
One of the fun things about coming into a theater during Tech Week is your name is everywhere. Everyone wants you. All the elements have to come together, and the stage manager has to pull them all together at some level. I mean, all those other people are there, but you have to do that.
The other thing is that during this rehearsal today, sound is going to be running some cues.
I bring in all my tapes and notes and cue sheets and sound plots and sit down and talk with them about when the sound needs to happen, when it needs to end, how the sounds need to mix.
About half of these cues haven't been heard yet by anybody. They may or may not get used. I hope they all get used because they all took a lot of work.
This afternoon is an opportunity for me to see what all this planning looks like. I've made all these decisions about what I think things should be like. Now I get to play with it and find out what I've got. You have to be able to juggle all of the technical knowledge with trusting your instincts. One thing that is sort of odd about how we've worked out this show is that we do have light coming up through the floor. When you light someone from underneath, you cast a whole new set of shadows and it changes the way your face looks and you look really scary and strange.
And we don't know where those shadows are going to fall yet. Once they fall there, we may say, oh, that's not too bad, we can live with that. Or then again, we may say, grr, hate it, can we do something about that?
You can design and expect all these things all you want, but you don't really know what you're going to get until you have it in the theater working. We're basically all of this problem solvers. We'll proceed to slay those dragons one at a time until we run out of time.
During the technical rehearsal, all the details are worked out, scene by scene.
Does this thing and then should be thrust.
We can't leave until the storm passes.
What storm?
Outside, don't you hear it?
No, it's not even raining.
You don't hear it?
I don't know where I need to be.
It's coming out of there.
Okay.
It's right about here, Martha.
What you try and do is identify problem spots. Sometimes you don't anticipate, and something you thought was airtight doesn't work. Well, if it doesn't work, try something else.
Well, but that's getting better. We got 1 more minute. You have any questions?
During the dress rehearsal, the timing is fine-tuned as the show is run from beginning to end.
Stand by deck 4, lights 53, sound 16, and sound 16 out. Deck 4, go. Lights 53, go. Sound 16, go.
And now the show is ready for the final collaborator. The result of months of preparation will be shared with the audience.
I'm told I am mad. Madmen are nervous. I am calm. Madmen know nothing. I am cautious and careful and proceed step by step with foresight.
Wait, does all hope fly away in the night or in the day? Is all that we see or seem?
All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream.
I love the energy created in acting. It's very much what I'm giving out to the audience and what the audience is giving back to me.
And then I saw. I understood. They did hear it. They suspected. They knew. They were sitting and chatting and mocking me with their smiles and their chat and listening to the pounding, pounding, pounding in my head. Waiting perhaps for my head to explode.
It kind of takes a turn as the actors get to know it. And it crosses a line where it's no longer my play. It becomes a thing of theirs. And the payoff for me as a playwright is sitting with the audience.
Brainless,
and watching a thing that is much bigger and richer than the thing that I contributed to it.
I didn't hit the D. Look here. Tear up the planks. Look here. It's the beating of his hideous heart.
I believe if you're doing a good piece of theater, you leave it incomplete so that the audience can fill it in their own way. It makes it more fun for them. They can make their own decision about what it is.
You stay. I go. No. No. No.
You will never know. You will never know what it is to live inside my mind.
Speak to me, Roderick. Can you hear me?
Inside my mind. Call me mad. Go ahead. It only means
Roderick.
that you will never know.